Can someone please confirm if I'm audible? All right, thank you for the confirmation. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Research Capacity Development Unit, Session 2 of Microsoft Excel training. My name is Rilebuhile Moso, and I'll be your moderator for today. Just a disclaimer that the session is recorded and the recording will be made available on Moodle. Just a few housekeeping rules before we can start. A feedback survey will be posted on the chat box during the session. Please kindly fill it in and let us know where we can improve. Please mute your mics throughout the session so we can have a seamless session. Please also raise your hands should you have any questions and the facilitator will give you a go ahead. Questions can also be posted on the chat box. Please allow me to introduce our facilitator for today, Mr. Divine Heart. Mr. Divine Heart is a senior tutor for end-user computing with extensive experience and a diverse educational background. He holds an advanced diploma in accounting and has earned several certificates, including cybersecurity, digital forensic, end-user computing, CompTIA A+, CompTIA N+. He is currently furthering his expertise by completing an advanced course in real estate management. Without further ado, I'd like to hand over to Mr. Divine Heart.
Good morning. That was amazing. Good morning, everyone. Can you guys hear me? Am I audible enough?
Yes, I can hear you from my side.
And moderator, I didn't get your name. Moderator, did you say your name on the channel?
Pardon?
I didn't get your name, our moderator for today.
Rilebuhile. I did say I mentioned Rilebuhile.
Okay.
Yes.
Awesome. And then, anyways, I didn't get any feedback from you guys in regards to the last section. If people had questions that they wanted us to talk about in particular today.
No, we didn't receive anything from our side as well. I think I mentioned that to Mr. Klaas in our last session. We haven't received anything, yes.
Okay, not a problem. And then, so I guess, do you think there are people from the first session here, or most likely just a different set?
No, there are people. There are people that I can recognize from the first session here.
Okay, awesome. Okay, I'll just quickly get in the file stick and I'll share my screen.
Not a problem.
So I'm going to. Okay, good morning once again, everyone. Welcome to our second section on Microsoft Excel. And if you're in here in our first section, you are more than welcome to send an email or ask questions as the session goes on. I'm going to do a recap on what I did on the previous section. I go further into this. And for this section, I'll be doing much more advanced courses in Excel, like our pivot tables, your absolute cell referencing, your VLOOKUP, and so on and so forth. And I already covered most of the basics in our first section on how to use Excel, but I'll be doing a recap. And like I said, feel free at any point in time to recall me and or ask additional questions. And if our time does get warranty or is on that, I'm going to explain further, or I would request that they say you get the recording, because the recording is going to be available for both sections, the first one and the second one. And also, I'm also available if you want to ask more questions on Excel as you advance in this course. So like we spoke about in the previous section, I brought our attention that Excel is dominantly used for analyzing data, performing calculations, and so on and so forth. And at the end of the day, Excel has more than enough tools that allow us to do entirely everything that we want to get out of Excel, analyzing data, creating our charts, and so on and so forth. And obviously, those things are there if you know how to use them. And that is entirely what we have in this section. So before I go further, I'll just recall what we have done on our previous section. Just give me a second. User and entirely. Awesome. And then in our previous session, I explained to you guys on how to sort out our data, on how to create a table. And once again, and then also explain to you most of the functions already by default on how to do your basic calculations. So for today, I'll just do a recap on that. I'll do a recap on how to remove duplicate values, how to sort out the data, and then we're going to go ahead and do our pivot tables, dashboard. Then we're going to talk about absolute cell references and so on and so forth. But I think I'll start off with the sorting out data, then I'll go ahead to do what's it called? Our absolute cell reference, and before I go ahead to do my pivot table. So once again, we have this, and previously I told you guys in our last session, for those of you that were here, how do we identify duplicate values in Excel? And this is entirely something that is very useful for employees and for people that are working in UJ, for staffs. When you're working with a data set, obviously you downloaded your student marks and so on and so forth, and you want to take out duplicate values, or entirely anyone, because it is fundamental that each time you're working with data in Excel, that you clean your data. That is how it's called. Cleaning of your data means analyzing your data and making sure that there are no duplicate values.
Sorry to disturb you, Mr. Divine. We
Yes,
have two hands from Mariki and Kolile. Can we just take those hands before we continue?
awesome, no problem. They can go ahead and ask their questions.
Good morning. I just wanted to ask, because I went back to the recording that was available on Teams, and it says that the OneDrive, you cannot download the recording. There's something wrong with OneDrive. I don't know.
Yes, please please access the recording from Moodle, because that's where we uploaded.
Okay.
Yes.
So should I go to RCD then and upload it from Moodle? I'm not sure how to do.
Okay. No, we upload the recording on Moodle. So if you go to Moodle under 2024 workshop resources, you should be able to find it there.
Okay, I'll try to do that then. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Kolile.
Morning, sir. Morning, chair. Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Morning.
Sorry, chair. On your far left-hand side, you've got numbers.
Okay.
In my Excel, I don't have. Maybe I've got an old version or what? You've got numbers, which is good, but on my one, I don't have numbers. I don't know whether did you create those numbers?
I don't understand. On my file, where are you talking
No,
about?
The left, where you've got employment ID, you've got numbers 1, 2. Just
One. You mean the column, this row header
yes,
here?
that column. Did you? It comes up automatically, or I've got an old one. I don't know.
It comes up automatically. Every Excel by default has the column header and the row header, so you're supposed to have it on your Excel.
I don't have it on my one. I don't know where to press it in order to get those numbers. But anyway, okay, let's proceed to maybe, I don't know. All right, I don't know. I don't have those numbers. Maybe, I don't know, other colleagues, I don't have the numbers. If it comes up automatically.
Yes, please, you can uninstall your Microsoft Excel and install a fresh version. On a previous section, I also spoke about this. If you are using the old Microsoft Excel, you can uninstall that completely. If you are a UJ staff, you have to go to ICS and tell them to install a new one for you, or you can just go ahead and go to Ulink. Under Tools, let me just share my screen. Let me just do this. Moderator, can you see you can see my screen, right?
Yes, I can see your screen.
Awesome. And then when this is your U-Link, right, you sign in obviously with your staff details. Then you're going to go to UJ Tools. You click on software, apps, and emails. You're going to find this option here, General Tools. You're going to find your Office 365. Once you click on this, it's going to prompt you to do or to sign into your registered username, which is obviously going to be your staff details. Once you go ahead and sign in, no thanks. Let me just do this. And you're going to click on get started, and it's going to ask you to put in your details. Once you do that, it's going to take you all the way to your Outlook home where you can download Office 365. If you find this method difficult, please go ahead to the ICS department and they're going to assist you with that. That is the only way you're going to get an updated version of Microsoft Excel. By default, once you open your Microsoft Excel, it's supposed to look like this. It's supposed to look like this. You have your column headers and your row headers. These 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, a default setting and a default background look for Microsoft Excel. I hope that is just that. We're going to proceed ahead with our section.
No, you can proceed. I don't want to delay anything. Okay.
Awesome.
Thank you. Danke.
And then previously, we spoke about on how to analyze our data, right? I explained on how to, in advance of places where we find things like this, that we can see our data, but I will explain that in details. Anyways, for this particular sheet, I'm going to explain how to remove duplicate values. So like I told you guys, so analyzing your data is part of what you should do all the time whenever you're working with a number of data, right? Student numbers, student marks. You have to make sure that obviously you don't have entries of students that have more than one marks. Did someone say something? Okay, and then so how do we do that? When I click on my column header here, I'm going to go ahead and click on my conditional formatting. Conditional formatting is just telling Excel, please, I want to apply specific formattings based on a condition. And right now we're looking for what? Duplicate values. When I click on what? Duplicate values, as you can see, it asks me to do what? I want to format my duplicate values with what? Specific colors. I'm going to choose any color of my choice. Now I can see the duplicate values. And then at the end of the day, why do we take out duplicate values? I give you guys a perfect instance. If you're working with student marks and then you had an assessment or an assignment that is what? There is multiple attempts or 2 attempts and you want to take the highest value. We can have, it is going to be, you can do it manually by looking at each employer can, like for an example, I know this is employee ID 001 and the same thing here, the 001, right? I can take the highest one value, which is 59. But if I have, let's say 800 students, even 200 students is still a lot of time for you to be going ahead and doing that. Hence, I will say we can use a way we call what? Remove duplicate values in Excel. So when I click on my column header, remember that again, go to conditional formatting, highlight cell rules, I click on what? Duplicate values. Now I'm going to sort out these. Already I can tell that everything here is a duplicate. So now when I click on this icon here, it's already sorted for me from largest to smallest. I'm going to go to what? Our custom sort. I click on the filter and I go to what? Custom sort. I want to sort this by employee ID and then I'm going to add a level. Remember again, adding a level is just telling Excel, after you sort out by my first level, which is employee ID, A to Z, please sort out again an additional sorting level, which is I'm going to sort this out by now largest to smallest, because remember at the end of the day, we want the employee ID to remain constant, but we just want to take the highest value. We don't want them to have a duplicate value. So when I click on OK, as you can see now, automatically I have all employees line statements. The first one is, and this person has the highest value, and the second attempt is going to be the lowest value. So it is the same thing for all my values. So regardless of whether you're working with student numbers, product IDs, it is going to be the same thing. As long as you follow the steps, remember this is going to be what? From smallest to largest, and this is going to be from largest to smallest. Now, most of the time, people go ahead and start doing this manually by clicking on these individual cells and individual rows and deleting the lowest one. But like I said, we don't want to work tedious. We want to work smart because we know how to use Excel properly and we are advanced Excel users. So we can't be working like just anyone. So we're going to do this just quickly using what we call duplicate what values. So when I click on any of my cell here, I'm going to go to my data. I'm going to go to my data tools. You're going to find this option that says remove what duplicate values. Once you click on this, we're not going to choose what we're removing what employee what rating. Remember, at the end of the day, because we've set our data to be what from smallest to largest and largest to smallest. Once I choose this option, automatically what has happened, Excel tells me I've removed what 50 duplicate values and unique values remains the same. So once I click on OK now, you can see I only have just 50 set of values and there are no duplicates. How do we confirm that? When I click on my column header again, I go to my home tab and I click on conditional formatting and I'm going to say duplicate values. As you can see, there is no duplicate values in my cell. And if you notice, each of the employee IDs retain their largest value. So once again, this is applicable to any, remember at the end of the day, like I told you guys, whatever you learn in Excel, it is applicable to any context. It is entirely up to you to decide how you want to use it. There is no specific way of using it. This is applicable to both values and numbers as long as they are duplicate values. And when you go to this conditional formatting, there's a lot of rules that you can also apply. You can also create your own rules if you want to. There's greater than, there's less than, there's test containing. It doesn't really matter how it is. You can actually work it out in Excel. That is just that. And then the next thing I'm going to recap on is how to convert text to columns. Just give me a second. Now I have this information here, text to columns. Once again, this is applicable to most of the time because last year we were using Blackboard. Now that we're using Moodle, this is applicable to UJ staffs. Moodle, at the end of the day, you can download your Excel. Well, let's say you're downloading your Macs for your students from Moodle, right? You're going to find that you have the option of downloading this information as a comma dot delimited. It means this is just what same thing, but now these are different columns, but they're separated by what? By comma instead of what? A line or a table. So how do you do that? And in most instances, you can identify that this particular item is only on the first cell. So you can't just split the cells and convert this to a table. When I click on cell B, you can see there is nothing on cell B. If I should type anything in here, automatically what happens? You can tell that everything here goes away because entirely all this information that I want, which is the name, age, gender, and so on and so forth, it is only on my first cell, which is cell A. So now we need to what? Adjust our data to what? To fit into exactly how we want because we can't work with our data looking like this. So how do we do that? First thing I'm going to do is what? I'm going to click on any of the cell. Remember I told you guys in the previous section, in Excel, every cell is independent of each other, right? You need to treat every cell as an individual. Before I can work with more than one cell, I need to select more than one cell. And doing this is called a range of cells. So I'm going to click on my first cell. I'm going to now go to what? My data. You're going to find the option that says text to column. Once you click on this, you're going to get a prompt. I don't know if you guys can see my prompts because I'm sharing my screen. Can you see this convert text to column prompt? Moderator?
Yes, we can see it. Can you please just zoom out your screen a bit?
Okay, let me just do this. Don't worry, when I convert this to text, you're going to see, but can you see this prompt that pops up? You can see this, right?
Yes.
Awesome. And then I'm going to go ahead and click on what's delimited, right? And by default, most of the time in Excel, you're always going to get a prompt that tells you exactly what do you want to do. The first one says, do you want to convert text that has characters like comma and tabs, or you want to convert what fields that are aligned in columns with spaces in between, right? And then at this point, we want to convert what a what text that has what commas and tabs to separate each field. When I click on next, you can see here, this is my data preview. This tells me whether I'm doing the right thing. At the end of the day, this particular information that I have are separated by what? By commas. So you need to be what? Specific. When you go into this column, you have to select that what? Actually, my data is separated by what? By column. Once I click on comma, sorry, you're going to find out what my data preview is going to look like this. At the end of the day, like I told you, what if your data is separated by commas or by full stop or by asterisks or by semicolons? It doesn't really matter. What do you have to do? When I go to my delimiters, right, I'm going to click on order. I'm now going to type in the specific one that I think my information is separated by. Whether it's a comma, is a bracket, it doesn't matter. I just have to put it there for Excel so that I can tell you that actually analyze my data. When you find any text and it has this particular word delimiter after it, please convert it to columns. Once I click on this, I'm going to click on next, and then I'll leave it just this as it is general. I click on finish. Automatically, can you see Excel has converted what just this particular word row for me. Now, as you can see, the rest of my data remains the same. That is why, because like I said, Excel treats everything as an individual. How do I do this? I need to do it and select entirely my data. Everything here, I want to convert everything here to what? To columns. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing again, this time around. And only convert a column at a time. Let's just do this, test the columns. Next, next, finish. Now, we have done entirely everything. So you can now see, I can now analyze my data. And I already told you, when you see this kind of things in Excel, and you can't see entirely your data, you can click on the column header, go to your home tab, and then go to your cell formatting, and then auto fit column width. Or you can just go to the edge of your box and double click. Once again, in Excel, once you find the hashtag values, this indicates that what this is a number, and Excel can see entirely the number, or the number itself, the text can't fit into the column. All you have to do is just adjust your column header, and everything is going to show. And as you can see now, we have converted what this particular what comma separated text into what columns, and it's just easy and what very quick. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter how your text is separated, whether it's with full stops, brackets, you need to go ahead and what choose a delimiter. And don't worry if you don't know how to do it on the first instance. This session is recorded. You can always go back. And like I told you guys previously, actually in Excel, practice really makes perfect. You can't imagine Excel and it happens. You need to actually work with your own file. I can make all these spreadsheets available for you guys if you want to use this to practice on your own time on how to apply those specific things. And entirely in Excel, any of this information is going to be applicable on how you want to apply it. It doesn't really matter whether you're working for your own project as a student or you are a staff trying to make use of Excel to accelerate your own work progress. So that is just that. And then now I'm going to go in ahead to talk about our functions again, your absolute cell reference, your relative cells, and so on and so forth for calculations before I go ahead and talk about pivot tables and dashboard. Once again, we spoke about this on how to perform calculations. In Excel actually has the ability to perform most of the calculations that you can find in any of your calculators. Like let's say when I go to my formulas here, I can actually perform any calculations that I want as long as it's applicable here. Under any of these sections, you can find financial calculations for accounting students, logical, text, date and time, lookup and reference, math and trigonometry, and then more functions for statistics, engineering, information, compatibility. As long as you can actually define it, most likely it's going to be applicable in Excel. And most of the functions are the same. The only difference is what the function argument or the criteria. And that is the only thing that separates all functions. Understanding your function arguments and criteria, it's very important. Once again, I'm going to talk about our if function. Just a recap on that, and then I'll go ahead and talk about cell references, which is the absolute cell reference and relative cell reference. And then once again, I said for each of the calculations we're going to do in Excel, the first thing that we're going to do is what insert your equals to sign. And we spoke in our previous class that using the cell reference is really important when you're talking about Excel, because at the end of the day, you just don't want to work with data that is going to be difficult to analyze at the end of the day. Let's say you have more than one data. And I give you guys an example. If on this table here, if an example, my total sales, I want to calculate this ourselves. And I told us on our previous class, if I'm going to say equals to sign, if I'm going to type in 800 multiplied by what? By 5. I'm going to have this, right? It is the right value, but when I edit this particular cell and increases the value, the calculation is not done automatically for me because what has happened? For this particular cell, I did this individually and I told it, and I just wrote out my values. Excel doesn't understand where my values are coming from, and Excel can assume that I'm trying to actually do this. Hence, we spoke about what? Using what? A cell reference. Cell reference is just telling Excel, actually, the values that I want you to have in this cell, I want you to multiply this cell with this cell, regardless of the value. So that when I go ahead and change anything in this cell, my calculation remains the same. And I can just autofill this all the way down, and it's going to be the same. So it doesn't matter if I change anything on any of these cells, the calculation changes automatically for me. That is the importance of what? Cell referencing. And then also we spoke about on how to convert our values into rands. You just highlight your cells, you go to your home tab, and then you're going to go into what? This general, we're going to change it to what? To currency. And then we're going to have these values here. And I can go ahead and reduce my decimal places. All these, we spoke about these in our previous session. I'm sorry, our recap is taking quite a long time. And then also for cell calculations, now going into relative cells and absolute cell referencing. Relative cells in Excel is, for an example, this calculation I just did now, I calculated what? My quantity times my unit price, and that is my relative cell. Excel assumes that for the rest of my calculation, I am trying to do what? To calculate using my relative cells, which is what? Cell E and cell F. These are called relative cells. So when I click on this and drag this down, Excel is going to do something for me. All relative cells is going to multiply it. Because when I click on this, I can tell both of these cells are multiplied. Something is applicable. Now we have something we call an absolute cell reference. Absolute cell reference in Excel is I'm telling Excel, actually, please perform my calculations, but now use the relative cell. But one of the cell is going to be an absolute cell, which I'm going to define. Absolute in the terms that I'm trying to say, I want this particular number or cell to be constant. For an example, I'll add a new column here. I'm going to call this cost of sale. And then I'm going to define my cost of sale value. I want my cost of sale value to be, let's say, 25%. Or let me just make this 0.25. Awesome. Now, I want to perform a calculation here. For an example, let me make another perfect example. When I click on this and I click on my equals to sign, oh, I want to say my total sales multiplied by my cost of sales. I want to have a value, right? This is going to be my cost of sale. When I autofill this content, we're going to find what we call what? This is now 0. Because as you can see, why do I have 0? Because all the cells here, Excel is trying to multiply the relative cells. Can you see? Excel assumes that I'm trying to take this value here with the next cell. Since the first value went ahead, this is the first cell here. So the next one, second one is supposed to take up on the next cell below it, which is the relative cell, and so on and so forth. Because I don't have a value in all these, I'm going to have what? 0. If I should go ahead and type in something here, can you see automatically what happens? My value here changes. Now the question is, what if I type in a text? Can you see, once I type in a text, I'm going to get a what? Hashtag value error. This is trying to tell me that I'm trying to perform a calculation using two words, two non-identical strings. Numbers and values don't match in Excel. They are just values and they're just numbers. They are not interrelated unless it is the $ or the arrow sign, and you need to define that. And I told you, we spoke about it in a previous class. You need to always format your values as values and your text as text. So I'm going to get a hashtag value here because what I'm trying to multiply what this relative cell with this relative cell, and this relative cell has a value and this has a text. Now I'm going to just delete this. Now, where does absolute cell reference come in? Absolute cell reference is when I'm telling Excel, please make a particular cell a fixed cell. I want this cell to remain constant in all my calculations. I'm trying to calculate my cost of sales and I want to multiply my total sales by my cost of sales value, which is 25%. And this particular value shouldn't change throughout my calculation. How do we do that? So I'm going to go ahead again. I click on my first calculation. How do we make a cell absolute cell reference? We're going to add what? $2 signs. So you have going to add a $sign after the letter and after the value. Or you can use the F4 value on your keyboard. When you use the F4 on your keyboard, you're going to find the function key F4. Once you press on that, you're going to find automatically Excel puts what? $2 sign for you. Can you see that? A $sign before the alphabet and a $sign after the alphabet or before the value. This indicates that what? Automatically I'm making myself an absolute cell. Something is applicable. I can choose to type this in if I want. I can actually choose to type this in. Let me just do this. I can choose to just click on this first place and insert a $sign. And after, also insert a $sign. It doesn't really matter. Once I click on my enter, right, and I also fill this particular word calculation all the way down, you're going to now notice what has happened. Everything here remains constant. Excel has taken what? All the relative cells and multiplied it by this particular cell. It's not looking ahead for my other relative cells. It's just taking only one relative cell and an absolute cell. I'm trying to tell Excel, actually, in all my calculations, this guy is going to be constant. You can see now all my calculations are going to remain the same thing because now this particular cell is our absolute cell reference. And then obviously we have mixed cell reference, which is what? A combination of relative and absolute cell. And we also have just a relative cell reference, which we already spoke about, which is just a $sign. If you want to learn more about this as it is applicable to you, you are welcome to what? To send us an email or research on your own. Anyone is going to be applicable, and I'm perfectly fine with that. So that is just that on how to perform what? An absolute cell reference. Now I'll be going ahead to talk about every other thing else that we have for today, which is what? How to what? Create a pivot table, insert charts, make a dashboard. This is mostly applicable to what? To postgraduate students. You're going to be finding instances where you need to. The question says you need to what? Create a dashboard or a pivot table and so on and so forth. So that is just that. And then just for our functions again, with this indicates just type in your function name. I'm going to select my range of cells, and then that is just that. So you need to practice out all this, and remember at the end of the day, you entirely know what you require Excel for. So in those areas that you think it is very much applicable to you, please practice on those areas and you can ask questions as the session goes on. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about our pivot tables with a new data. I'm going to be using these data to talk about our pivot tables. In here, I just have random data of what? Countries, product names, units sold, revenue, cost, excuse me, profit and date. And then we spoke about the fact that when I have such a data, the first thing I'm going to do is I am going to analyze my data. My units sold and my revenue and cost and profit, these are all what's going to be values and they're all currencies. I can't have them in numbers only. So the first thing I'm going to do actually is just open up my columns so I can see entirely all my text. And then I'm going to go ahead and do what? Convert days into a table. Yes, Modesto, do you want to say something?
Yes, Mr. Divine, we have a hand from Malet.
Yes, you can go ahead.
Oh, okay, wait, let me unmute. Let me enable her mic. You can go ahead, Malette. I have
Thank you. You've unmuted me. Thank you. Mr. Divine,
Yes, I'm
please
listening.
repeat slowly the name of the keyboard shortcut you used to insert those $2 signs.
Okay, it's the function key, the F4. The
F4.
function key. Yes.
Okay.
So
Thank
most
you.
of the time, if you're on your function key, right? If your keyboard supports a something called the FN function. So on the bottom left of your keyboard, you're going to find control, right?
Yes.
And then you're supposed to find the Windows logo sign. But if there's an additional key that is just written an FN, it means you need to press that FN before you press any of the function key.
Right. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Appreciate it.
Awesome. Any other questions before I continue? Moderator, does any other person have a question, even in the comment section?
No, there is nothing from my side.
Awesome. And then now, so after I have analyzed my data, right, I need to convert this particular information into a table. You can just press your Ctrl T on your keyboard, which is your shortcut, or you can just click on any place on this cell and just click on what insert, and it's going to ask you to what insert what. I want to insert just a table. And automatically what's going to happen, I said it's going to convert, it's going to highlight all this, my data, and I'm going to click what? Yes, my table has header. As you can see, I have country, products, unit sold. I'm going to click on OK. You can see now, everything here has been converted what? Into a table. Once again, my revenue and my units sold, these are what? Values. So I'm going to click on my cell formatting, numbers. These are just numbers. And I don't want to have any decimal places. This particular column here is currency. And this here is going to be what? Currency. And this is going to be what? Currency as well. This particular column is going to be my date. Can you see? Automatically, everything is going to be converted for me. Now it makes my life so much easier. When I click on these, I also don't want to have decimal places. I can just remove out the extra zeros. And when you convert into decimal places, please, you have to be careful on that. For staff members, listen, when you're working with marks, student marks, it is up to you to define how you want to convert your decimal places, because at the end of the day, Excel automatically adjusts even if we don't have because mathematically we need to have the more than 5 before we can convert it to what? A whole number. But Excel converts, even if it's just 22,22, Excel can convert it to 23, depending on how you define your converting. So you need to be careful on that. You need to know if you want to allow that or you want to adjust it. So it is entirely up to you. If it's just zeros, you can just entirely convert that towards decimal places. Next thing that I want to do is, now I need to create a new sheet. I want to call this my dashboard. I'm going to just click on these guys and hide it. I don't require them anymore. I'm going to rename this to my dashboard. For now, and then I'm going to go ahead and insert a pivot table. You can't have a dashboard without a pivot table. And at the end of the day, the purpose of a dashboard is just to explain entirely what you have on your table, on your pivot table. You want to analyze the data and you want the data to be what? You don't want it to be static. You want it to be automatic. People can click on the data itself and get any information that they want. Entirely, this is very important for postgraduate students because you're going to be working with a lot of these kind of scenarios, especially in your assignments or your research. It doesn't really matter. And remember, at the end of the day, the first thing we are going to do is what? Clean out our data. Once we have this in a table format, we can now go ahead and click on what? Still on your insert tab, I'm just going to click anywhere on my table. I go to my insert tab and click on what? Insert what? A pivot table. I want to insert this pivot table where? On a new worksheet. And I want my pivot table to have, which is going to be my table, right? That's the range. I can just click on what? Okay. You can see I have this pivot table here. I want to have more pivot tables. So what can I do? On the first one, I can just click on this and hold the control key. Once you hold the control key on your keyboard and you just drag it, automatically you're just creating a new sheet. Or you can just do this manually by clicking on the sheet, right clicking, and click on move or copy. I want to create a copy and I'm going to click on OK. At the end of the day, you don't need to have more than one sheet when you're doing your pivot table or your dashboard. It is not a requirement. For this particular session that I'm hosting, I want to have more than one just because I want to have more than one data or chart on my dashboard. So remember, at the end of the day, like I said, whatever you're learning in the Excel, it is not just a principal thing or it's not exhaustive list. You can apply it however that you want. You are the one that requires something. You need to go ahead and make it look like how exactly you want. So now I have more than one of these, right? Which is, okay, I don't require this sheet. I'm gonna delete. So the first one, I'm going to name the first one. So now I have my pivot data and I also have my data, right? So once I insert my pivot tables, I don't need to come back to this screen anymore. This is still my data and it's very important that I just leave it how it is. I'll show you guys on how to update your data at some point if you do have new informations and how to update your pivot table for it to reflect on your dashboard. So now I'm going ahead on my first one. Now I need to show what? I want to show what? Products and countries and their units sold. So this here indicates to you, these are the pivot fields and these are the what? How do you want the pivot fields to look like? The first thing that I want to have is I want to have my product on my rows. Can you see? On this, I'm going to have what? Products on these rows here. On my next column, I want to have units sold. Oh, actually, I want to have this here on my values. So these are my products. I want to have these units sold here. And on my columns, I want to have, let me say, country. You can see. So now this here is telling me that obviously this information that I have here is entirely what I'm just putting in the pivot table. And the pivot table allows you to analyze your data. As you can see here, I have more than 10 entries or 20 entries of India, and they bought different products. Having them on my pivot table allows me to actually look at it. I know entirely for India, they have this total number of products that they bought, which is chocolate dip, fortune cookie, oats maize. So having a pivot table, it is very, very crucial. When you're working with a large number of data, you need to have the data completely analyzed for you and easier for anyone to just read it up and know what is going on. Having this information like this looks shoddy. So now when I'm going to go back here and I click on this, now I have my rows, which is my chocolate chip. I can also go ahead and change this because at the end of the day, let's say I want my country. I can just take this out. I want the country to be on the row section and I want the products to be on the column section. Something is applicable. It doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, I have all this information here. I know that entirely all the country in this my table because when I go to my data here, when I click on this and I want to filter according to country, as you can see, I only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 countries and they have multiple entries. When I go back to my pivot table, something is applicable. I have these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 countries. Now everything else has been grouped for me. I can go ahead and add revenue, cost, profit as the case may be. Now I want to sort out my data again. I want this entire column, which is the grand total, because I'm working with what? Units sold. This is the grand total of everything, and I want this to be what? In currency. I also want to sort out this to be what? From A to Z. And I want to sort out my column chips to be from what? From A to Z. Now I have my data here. The next thing I'm going to do is I need to insert this my data to show it what in a graph form. So I'm going to click on this pivot table, and by default I told you guys in the previous section, every object in Excel has a specific object toolbar that allows you to further work with that particular object. So when I click on here, you can see I don't have the option of pivot table analyze and setup. Once I click on my pivot table itself, I have the option of pivot table analyze and design. When I go to my analyze, I'm going to click on pivot charts. I want to insert this information that I have right now. I want to represent it on a chart. I'm going to choose any chart of my choice. I'm going to click on OK. Now that we have this particular chart, this represents everything that we require, right? It tells me what the number of products, which is the product, shows me exactly the product itself, tells me which country it is. Now I want to move this particular information. I can just copy this and paste it on my dashboard. I can just click on move chart. I'm going to move to a new to a new object in Sheetsy, and I'm just place it where on my dashboard. Click on OK. You can see now on my dashboard itself, I have this particular chart. Before I go ahead and define my dashboard, I'm going to go ahead here and just type in something. I'm going to say ABC Limited. It's the name of our company, right? I highlight everything here else. I want to merge this into one. Just click on merge and center. Then I can go ahead and apply any formatting of my choice. And apply a font color. This is just for demonstration purposes. Now I have the first information, which is this particular information here. And then by default, I can click on my chart itself, right? I want to go ahead and change my chart design. And we spoke about this. I want to add a chart element, which is just going to be my chart title. I'm going to call this product sold. That's all I want from this guy. There's a lot more things I can do. I can choose to change my chart design however that I want. I can hide my pivot chart options. Entirely whatever that you want to have in Excel is going to be applicable. So remember, at the end of the day, I'm not going to go ahead and show everything else. You can change the design of how you want your table to look like. Want it to look fancy, want it to have table colors, and so on and so forth. It is entirely up to you. Now I'm still working on my pivot table, right? Next thing I want to have is I'm going to go to the next sheet. Because we have this, I'm going to rename this to now products. I'm going to go to our next pivot table. On this table, I want to have I want to have products again. Now I want to have the entire revenue for each of the products. I'm just going to have these here on the values. So each of the products, I want to know the entire revenue. I can also add countries if I want to. And this is going to tell me in India, we have total and so entirely however that I want, right? And I know now I'm working with values. On my total revenue here, I need to convert this to to currencies. Once again, I need to sort this from A to Z. And then I can click on this and go to my pivot table, analyze, and add a pivot chart. I can choose to add a different type of chart if I want to. As you can see now, same thing is applicable. I know that from here, because I've sorted my entire values from A to Z, each of the country here is going to tell me specifically how much they have spent or how much revenue they get. I can click on my chart itself and go to my chart design and go to add chart elements, data labels. I can have them this way or with no legends. I can also go ahead and look for my data table with legend keys. Entirely up to you what exactly do you want to represent on your chart. I want to have a legend. I don't want to have a legend. It is entirely up to me. And I can still move this again to what? I'm going to click on move charts in our dashboard. Now I want this to be here. Sum of revenue. And then on the final one, I'm going to go ahead and add just, I'm going to say product. I'm going to add cost of the product. I'm also going to add profit. Sum of cost, sum of profit. Entirely. I can even also create my own table and decide to choose the difference between the cost and the profit, but that is just by the way. And I'm going to now choose from the smallest to the largest. Once again, I want to sort out this table here. I want to sort this from A to Z, smallest to largest. And these are entirely currencies. Now I also want to add this to my pivot table, to my dashboard. I can now use a line. Once again, right click on these, move chart to my dashboard. Now on my dashboard, I have all this information that I want to have here. Now, what makes a dashboard is the fact that you can display all the information and it's entirely automated. And we don't want our dashboard looking shoddy and just blank. So now this is the most crucial part about having this, because anyone can just do this, add up your data, show it in a chart. But what really makes a dashboard is the ability for your dashboard to be interactive, to be well presented and neat. Remember, at the end of the day now, this is no longer just an Excel spreadsheet that we want to have. So we don't require these grid lines. So when I click on my table here, on my sheet itself, I go to my view, I'm going to take away what? My grid lines. I don't want this to show. I also don't want my formula bar to show. I just want my dashboard to be looking like this. I can go ahead and add a page color if I want to. If I don't want to, I can just leave it how it is. Next thing that I want to do is I want to resize my charts. I want everything to be on the same height. So I can click on this itself and go to my formatting tool, and I can resize my charts. I can actually select all the charts all together by holding down the control. So when you click on the first chart, you can hold down the control and click on the next one and on the second one, and then you just go to shape format. You can now change the size to however that you want. You want to resize your chart. This is applicable to any object in Excel, whether Word, PowerPoint. You can always use a control. Control allows you to select multiple data, multiple information. I'll show us on how to use Control and Shift and when analyzing data. Right now, I'm working on this dashboard. Now I have the product sold, right? Same thing here. I want to add a chart element and go ahead and just insert a chart title. And I want this to be what? Total revenue. Same thing here. I want to add a chart title. Because now I have this on my dashboard. I can actually adjust these guys all the way. Now, the next thing that I want to do is I want my dashboard to be interactive. I want when you come here and click, You can actually check for each of the countries, and my chart is going to display just for that specific country. How do you do that? The first thing I'm going to actually do is I'm going to click on the first one, which is my product sold. I want to go to my pivot table, analyze. I want to insert what? A timeline. Just want to insert a date. Click on OK. Now I have a timeline here. I can just add this here. I can right click on these and go to my size and properties. I can resize my timeline however that I want to my desired size. So now when you click on any of this timeline, as you can see now, automatically what happens? When I click on January only, this my particular chart changes. It shows me now that it shows me only informations on a particular month. This is part of the reasons why we have pivot tables. It makes our life so much easier. Anyone can walk in and be like, okay, yes, actually I can see the number of products sold in January. I can click on February. It changes my chart according to how I want it to be. The thing I want to insert is going to be a slicer. It's called a slicer. I still going to click on my particular table, right? I go to pivot table, analyze, and I click on what? Insert a slicer. For my slicer, I want to insert what? For countries and products. Now I have this information and products. And as you can see here, the slices allows us to do what? When I click on a particular product, I'm going to find what has happened in the products. I can also change and click on what? Countries. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I want to go ahead and create a relationship, because right now we just have information that is only showing on this chart. But at the end of the day, this our particular data, right, has everything here is supposed to be related. So I can just click on this, right click. I'm going to go ahead and do what? Slicer settings. I can also choose how I want to show my products. What is going to be what? Descending order or ascending order. It doesn't really matter. It is up to me to define that. I can still click on my slicer itself and go to the slicer, and I can change the design of my slicers to just make my dashboard look beautiful. Now we have our slicers and our dashboard. I want to resize this. So for post-graduate students, entirely your dashboard must be presentable. It is part of what you're supposed to be doing. I would advise don't use like a lot of colors. You can use 2 solid colors for your entire dashboard. Even for your bars, you can choose to format them according to however you want. Remember, everything here, it is at your disposal. You can click on any of these and change how you want them to appear. I don't want to display the headers. I can click on take away the display of headers. Now I just have this. So far, what we've actually just done is we have just added our charts, created a pivot table first, added our charts. Now we're going to having our dashboard. So a dashboard in Excel is just a spreadsheet that is showing entirely all the information that you have on your data, and you want to display them in this manner that allows you to alter information that you have specifically for what you're looking for. Next thing that we're going to do is we're going to create relationships. We're going to create relationships. This allows us to do what? To interact entirely with our products, total revenue, cost versus profit. Before I go ahead and do that, does anyone have a question so far? Any questions so far? Any questions?
Yes, we have a hand from Mariki.
Yes, can you go ahead?
I'm sorry, I may be very, very slow, but the dashboard you created, is that just another sheet in Excel? Or is
The
it a
dash
function?
Now, yes, it's just another sheet on its side. And then everything here on my dashboard, I had to move it from somewhere else into this place.
And then you can cut and paste from here into a Word document.
The dashboard itself is interactive because it's in Excel. You can only cut and paste your charts, but you can't cut and paste these slicers because all this information here are fundamental to Excel only. You can't view this in Microsoft Word, but you can view your charts in Microsoft Word. You can
Okay.
click on these and copy and paste it in Microsoft Word. But if you want them to be interactive, it has to be in Excel.
Okay.
In
I
yes,
still got thinking.
yes, in Microsoft Word also you can also do what we call, you can insert an object. So you can insert a spreadsheet in Microsoft Word as an object. So when someone clicks on that spreadsheet, it takes them to Excel and it's going to look just like this.
Okay.
Yes. Any more questions?
No, nothing. I think we can proceed.
Okay. Just give me a second. Now I'm going to go ahead and talk about our connections. So on the timeline here, I can choose the option of what reports what connections. I can add more than one connection. So for an example, when I click on January, can you see now this my timeline here is going to display what informations that are going to be what applicable to what both of the sheets. So let me just go ahead and rename these our products. I'm going to rename these to revenue. And then the last one is going to be cost versus sale. Let me just clear this filter. I can also click on these. So when I click on each of the slicers, I go to the timeline. I want to report connections. I want these to be what? I want this particular what slicer itself. So when I click on this slicer, I want it to influence entirely my chart, making my pivot, my dashboard, right, interactive. So when I click on January now, you can see this only displays information that is pertaining to January in all my charts for both for cost versus profit, product sold, total revenue. When I click on February, as you can see, it only shows me information that are what pertaining what to each of these charts and sheet that I've created for each of my pivot table. Something is applicable. I can click on my country, right, on the country slicer. I can go to the slicer itself and I can go ahead and add a connection. I want this to also have connections with everything else. Something is applicable here. Report connection, add this and add this. Now, when I click on India and I click on what products, chocolate chip, as you can see, I can see entirely for all my charts. For this first one, I can tell how much products was sold. Same thing is applicable here. When I click on fortune cookies or raisin bars, I can just click on Malaysia. Any of the countries is going to be applicable. I can clear my filter if I want to. Something is applicable here. I can just click on this. So now you can see your slicers are entirely what interacting with the rest of your charts. Everything that I do here is going to be influenced by the rest of the chart. And you can see here as well, all the information that I'm displaying is only for May. If I change this to June and I just click on this, so this is entirely the purpose of having a dashboard, to be able to represent your data in such a way that just anyone could go ahead and be like, actually, I want to see what's going on in the company. As a professional accountant, an investor wants to find out what is going on in the company just for January, or the CFO wants to know what's going on. Just for January, I want to see how much products we have sold and in how many of countries have we sold these products. I can choose to have more than one countries by just clicking this option here. It displays for me exactly what is going on. I can say in February, all this is going to be applicable. So there is not exhaustive list for dashboards. This is entirely how you want it to be. This can be representing data for Max, can be representing just anything. Just anything is going to be applicable, however that you want it to be. So now the only thing I'm left with is just making my dashboard look good. For students, presentation and appearance is quite very important. You just want your dashboard to look plain and blank. So I'm going to go ahead and just remove all the filters that I have on my dashboard. Now I can go ahead and click on individual charts. I can change the colors. If I want to change the colors, I can make them look however that I want. This is entirely up to me. Let me just remove the data labels. So that is just that for dashboard and pivot tables. So at the end of the day, you can now go ahead and do what? You can share your information at any point in time that you want to share with anyone. You want to send out to your own friends for them to analyze or to review. You can go ahead and share your Excel. You can just click on this option here to share. And then you can also protect and manage assets if you want to manage assets on your entire data. In Excel allows you to protect your data in terms of you can manage assets, you can put a password to your spreadsheet. So whoever that opens it needs to put a password to be able to access the data. Entirely, that is just what it is like inserting a pivot table. And then most of everything else here, moving your charts, updating your charts, it is entirely up to you. At any point, I feel like something has happened and I need to to go ahead and do to update my table. Adding the information that you need on this table is not going to change anything on your pivot table or your dashboard. You need to go ahead on your own. When you click on your pivot table analyze, you need to always go ahead and do update your data. You can refresh. Clicking on refresh adds more information, or you can change your data source. If you want to change the data source of your pivot table, you can click on this option here and you can go ahead and choose a different table. And automatically what's going to happen? Excel is going to represent all that information again on the pivot table, however that you want. I'm just going to click on cancel. I don't need to refresh. So if I go and edit anything on my table here, until I've refreshed or updated my pivot table or my dashboard, it's not going to reflect on that. So if something's applicable, when there is when there's new information, you can still go ahead and click on the table itself. And then you can add more. You can refresh your table. You can export this information that you have here to a SharePoint list, as the case may be. So that is just that for pivot table. There is a lot more that we could learn today, but at the end of the day, these are just the basics on how to insert a dashboard. Everything else is just additional things, secondary things like your formatting styles, changing the colors, adding a border and line, and so on and so forth. They are necessary, but they are not entirely important, and it is up to your own discretion on how you want to use them. So far, any questions? Is there something you guys want me to refresh on before I proceed further?
I don't know. We had a hand from Olile.
Yes, then go ahead and answer the question.
I don't know. I think he logged out. It might be connectivity issues.
Hello, sir.
Yes, I'm listening.
Where you've got this table for cost versus profit,
Yes,
that one, you see, you've got something like a graph form, the red and blue.
yes.
Is that a chart or is a table?
It's
It's a graph. It's a
yeah,
graph.
it is a graph, but it's a line chart. So let me go back to this.
Hmm?
Let me just control. For example now, this is a new spreadsheet, right? So when I click on anything entirely, let me just say products versus units sold. This is the information I want to represent, right? When I click on this and I go to my pivot chart, this is where you're going to find this. On this insert chart section, you can find whichever chart that you want to represent. Does that make sense? So I can change this, even if it's applicable, I can actually go to my dashboard. When I click on this, I can go to my chart design and I can choose to change change it to a pie chart if I want to, and it's going to just change automatically for me. I can still go ahead and change it to something else, to a bar chart. Actually any chart is applicable. So that is a chart style. You can just change your chart type, and then you can go ahead and change any of these charts is applicable. Column charts, line, pie, bar, area, map, entirely to your own word disposal. Did I answer your question?
Okay, thank you. Yeah, makes sense. Thank you.
Awesome. And then, so that is everything that I have for pivot tables. So everything else, you can still go ahead and format. I can choose to do what? My page layout. I can apply a theme to my office, to this particular one, and every team comes with their own formatted styles. I can apply a theme entirely to my, you can see here, my dashboard is going to change the color. I can change the theme font if I want to. I can change the effects. I can change the font style that I want for my entire team to have. So this is entirely up to me what I want. I can also change my background. I can put a solid background on my spreadsheet. Most of the time, people don't know this is applicable. It's not just applicable in only Microsoft Word and PowerPoint. You can actually change the background of your Excel spreadsheet. I can also add print styles if I want to add print styles, and then grid lines. So all this information I just here, and we have learned the basics on what exactly we want to do. So now when I click on my file and go to my print preview, you can see, and I showed you guys on how to set print previews. Dashboards are not for you to print because they are supposed to be sent and someone has to view them in Excel. Obviously, when you print this out, Excel is going to just print them as a text. Everything here is interactive and it's not going to be the same thing if you print them out. So I can just need to change my theme. I don't like these colors. Yes. So that is entirely what you have. So at the end of the day, what really makes a pivot table is the ability for this particular information here to be interactive. If you make your dashboard and you present it and it's just static, it doesn't show that you actually know how to do or how to use Excel. It proves that your skill is quite, it's questionable. So remember again, adding your slicers on your timeline, it's very crucial. It's one of the most important thing of having a dashboard. That's the most crucial part. Having the ability to click on any of these and the information that you require is going to shoot or show how exactly you want them to be, makes your entire dashboard interactive. And that's the entire purpose of a dashboard. So, and everything here, you can always change it out. I can always untick this and untick something else. So entirely in any instance, I can change what is represented in my pivot table, however that I want it to be. It's entirely up to me to decide what do I want to show on my pivot table. As I'm clicking it, I can still go ahead and click and hide this. When I'm done, when I just click on the table, when I go to pivot analyze, I can click on what? Field list. Once I click on this, this appears. When you're done editing it, you can close it. And now we have more items on our what? Cost versus profit. When I still go ahead and click on any of these items, it's going to show me all this information pertaining to what? Those items. So, and then each of these charts, you can always edit it however that you want. So you see, this is how our dashboard looks like. I can go back to my view and I'm going to take away. Sorry, file. So that is just that. And in absence of any questions, I'll just go ahead and now talk about the rest of the things that I will just have, just a summary of everything else. So in a normal instance, if you're just working with a data, right, and you don't need to use a pivot table or a chart, remember everything that we went through here is specifically on creating a dashboard, working with pivot tables. You can still insert normal tables and still insert charts, and there's not going to be an issue because pivot tables are not compulsory. Pivot tables only allows us to what? To analyze the data in a more graphical what point of view, and allows what for interaction, because pivot tables allows options like sliders and timelines and report relationships and so on and so forth. If I wanted to just have just random data on, let me just for an example, this is just a normal data, right? I can still have this data just on a chart without having to have a pivot table. At the end of the day, Excel is just what I make it of. I get to define how I want to use Excel for my own benefit. So, and then we spoke about this. The most important things in inserting a table or a chart or whatever it is your data series. And make sure that data series is sorted out is very important when you're working with a large number of data. And then at every point in time, you need to have selected what you want to represent in your chart. So let's say I want to represent just a chart. I don't have to insert a pivot table or a table itself. It is still the same thing. It's not compulsory that you need to make everything a pivot table. So I can just click on my data, right? I need to represent my product category and the order ID. Let me just do this. On a chart, I can still go to my insert tab and insert what? Any chart of my choice. And for my data series, I can select my data for my chart. I'm going to say why is this showing only? Let's just do this. It's on chart. Is representing just half information. See. Okay, random charts. And then same thing is applicable on these my random charts. I can actually just, but now with these random charts and just a normal chart, there is no interactive section. Ordinary chart doesn't allow us to insert sliders and timelines. The only time we can do that is when we've converted what? Our chart or our table into a pivot table. That's the only time we can add those additional functions like your sliders and so on. So this is just an ordinary chart that you can move around. You can right click on this and copy it and paste it in Microsoft Word just to represent your random data, and that is just that. Pivot tables are advanced and specifically for what? Specific word purposes. Now we're going to just go ahead and speak about the remaining things, which is what? Working with our data and how to use shortcuts in Excel. There's a lot of shortcuts in Excel that is applicable, and they're all at your own disposal. The first shortcut I'm going to talk about is what selecting multiple cells. How do you select multiple cells in Excel? For an example, I want to select cell 1, cell A2, and cell what? E10. Just click on the cell and use the control key, and you can select what? Multiple cells. This is actually applicable in Windows. You're working with Windows, you can also select multiple files using the control key. When you use the shift key on your keyboard, you're telling Excel you want to select every text in between these two cells. For an example, when I click on this and I hold my shift key and click on this, Excel selects everything in between this, and that is a quick way of working with words. If I want to delete everything in between, if I want to delete individually, I have to use the control key. Next thing we have is copying formulas. How do you copy formulas? You can copy and paste in specific things. We spoke about how to use the formatting painter, right? Let's say I apply formatting to this. I'll change this from something else to and then apply the fill. I can click on my clipboard, I can go to my formatting painter and click on these and highlight the rest of the cells that I want to have the same thing. Automatically what happens, Excel formats those individual cells using the same formatting style that I've selected on the first cell. That's what we call what? Formatting painter. You can't use the formatting painter as the name is just for formatting only. When it comes to formulas, you need to use the copy formulas, which is your Control C and Control V to paste. So most of these shortcuts are going to be applicable in different contexts, depending on exactly what you want to do in Excel. So the next thing that we have is using our arithmetic formulas and how to copy them. Going back to these our calculation spreadsheets, you can also use arithmetic formulas to calculate specific information, as the case may be. For our total sales, I need to just adjust this. And then we can also use how to use arithmetic formulas, which is just your plus, your equals to sign, your brackets. And then in Excel, you need to specify the same way using the calculator, you need to specify exactly what you want to achieve. If BODMAS is applicable, you need to have your brackets, you need to open your brackets and add your multiplication sign and so on and so forth. Excel doesn't define those characters for you. You have to define them unless you're using a function. And then finally, we're talking about the last function. I'll do the if function again, and I will speak about your VLOOKUP and your HLOOKUP. So the if function again, we spoke about in the previous section. If function is just to define criteria. Now I'm doing a recap and summary, and please, you're always welcome to call me back if you want me to explain anything in details as we're going through this final part of the section. The if function is just to define criteria based upon a condition. I spoke about the fact that if function can be applicable to whether text, numbers, values, it doesn't really matter. What really matters is your logical test. You get to define what exactly do you want to achieve using the if function. And I said if function is applicable when there's a criteria that needs to be met. For an example, in a previous class, I said if I want to check, I want to define what I want to produce more and produce less. And we need to speak about it in detail in terms that I want to tell Excel if the total sales for this particular product is more than this, or if the profit is more than this, please produce more. In those instances, we can type out our test in calculation format. Even in calculator, we can do that. So we use a logical test. That's called what is called an if, a logical test. When I go to my formulas and I go to my lookup and reference, my logical test, I go to my if. When I click on the logical test, I want to say what? Obviously my profit, which is this cell. And remember again, what is very crucial is cell reference. If you don't use the cell reference in Excel, you're going to make a lot of mistakes. I'm not going to type 1.2. I'm going to say if this cell, which is I2, is greater than this or greater than that. Previously, we used 250. I'm going to say value if true, produce more. And value if less, produce less. And we did indicate that it doesn't really matter if you put in your asterisks here, unless you're doing this manually. If you're using this function argument, you need to just type in everything that you want. And you can see the difference here. When you do this automatically, or using the function argument, Excel automatically puts these hyphens for you. And then there's a space, Excel puts a hyphen for you here. When I click on OK, as you can see, this profit here is greater than what? By 250. And then I should just drag this down. So in Excel, this is called using the autofill function. When you go to the edge of the box and then when this turns to the small curse, you're trying to tell Excel, please, whatever I've done in this cell, please replicate it entirely to the rest of the cells I'm going to drag. So I can just use this and copy this down. And now Excel is going to do the same calculation for me. Or I can click on this cell and use my Control-C and then paste. The same things are going to be applicable. Click on this cell, right click on the cell, go to my copy. Rest of the cells, I'm going to right click and do what? I want to paste values. I want to paste, just paste. I want to paste formulas. I can paste the formula itself, and now you're going to find that Excel has pasted what the formula for me. So you can either use your autofill function or you can use what? Paste formulas if you choose to have that. Something is applicable. There's also that way of doing it. But the manner of doing it is if I want to edit this by myself, I can still go ahead and type in my functions. All your functions can be typed in manually by yourself, but the difference is you need to understand the parentheses of the function. For an example, if I should take out this apostrophe, this colon, sorry, semicolon, and add a colon, we're going to have this error. This error is because I haven't followed what the function argument. The function argument itself specifies that when I type in my equals to sign, and I type if, and I open my brackets, can you see this is my function argument? I have to have a logical test, and then separated by what? A semicolon, value if true, separated by a semicolon, and value if false. And then I'm going to close my parentheses. If, for instance, I'm going to type in a string of text that is separated by a space, I need to put them in apostrophe. So in all instances, understanding your formula arguments is what makes everything different. Anytime in Excel that you have errors in Excel, I was speaking about that just now, is because we haven't followed what? The rules. And we spoke about that. When you're trying to multiply a value and a text, you're going to have what? An hashtag what? Value error, meaning that what is not going to be applicable. For an example, we make the example of using what? Our cost versus what? Our sales. If I'm trying to multiply versus A, I'm going to say equals to sign this multiplied by this. I'm going to have an hashtag what value. Anytime you get this error in Excel, it means that what? You're trying to multiply a value with your text. Something is applicable. If I leave this open, I'm going to have a 0 here. I'm still going to have an hashtag value error. So in all instances, Excel is always going to remind us that what? Actually, we're doing the wrong thing and we need to fix that. So anytime we're working with Excel, all I really want you to do is follow the process, the due course. Most of the time, you're going to get a prompt that tells you what exactly you need to do. If you don't really understand the step, follow the prompt. If you don't follow the prompts, you're going to have what? A mistake, you're going to have an error in Excel. And in all instances, you just need to just fix a specific thing and everything is going to be fine. So I think I've actually covered, if not everything, but both from the first class and the second class. Or moderator, is there something that you think I missed out on? I don't know why my fellow coordinator is not here today.
No, I think you have covered everything. I don't know. Maybe we can open the floor for questions.
Yes, maybe we can actually do that. So we can use the remainder of our time to take questions.
Yes.
The floor is open to ask questions. Old questions, new questions, whether it's in contest or it's not in contest, you're more than welcome to ask your questions.
Olila, you had your hand up. Do you have a question?
No, madam, I just want to find out, man, if possible, that this gentleman can communicate with him privately via email. I'm in engineering. I don't want. I just want to maybe, is that possible that he can share his email if possible, just to talk with him privately? Is that possible? If possible.
Yes, yes,
know.
I can share my email on, so you can send an email if you want to consult in regards to anything in particular.
Okay, okay. If you can, maybe I can get it on the chat and then I can write it down.
Yes, I will type my email in the chat just now.
Okay, thanks a lot, sir. Thank you,
Awesome.
man. Okay.
And then anyone else?
Sorry, sir.
Yes, I'm listening.
Yeah, it's Nomlando here. I just want to find out how soon will the recording be available, so that it was a very informative session. I just want to go through it slowly and yeah.
Okay, moderator, please.
Oh, okay, thank you. Normally we take 3 to 5 days, but I should be able to upload the recording before the end of today.
Thank you.
Okay.
And from our departments, RCD departments, definitely there's something people have to say or questions. I don't know. Moderator, what do you guys have for us actually?
Pardon?
From the moderator's point of view, yes, questions from your side as well.
No, I don't have any questions from my side at the moment. But I'll also be rewatching the recording, but I should be able to contact you should I have any questions.
Awesome. Someone is asking, can't we have a downloadable version on Teams? Actually, moderator, would you be able to have that, just a link, because it's only available on Moodle?
It's available on Moodle, but you can't download the video. You can just only watch it through YouTube.
Okay. And then a certificate of attendance. Is there going to be a certificate of attendance?
Yes, there will be a certificate of attendance, but we'll draw the attendance register from Teams. So we don't have a attendance register.
Okay, okay.
But what we have the feedback survey that I'll post just now again. Please kindly do fill in and just let us know where we can improve.
Okay. Thanks. Awesome. So, and then also in our previous class, we spoke about trace dependence, trace precedence. All those are here, and being honest, yes, Excel is not a walk in the park. You need to practice more often. I need to have more challenges for you to be able to advance in Excel. If you're always doing one thing all over again, doesn't really mean that you have known how to use Excel. You're always run into errors. So when you don't have case studies or concepts that requires you to advance in Excel, it can become quite challenging unless you intentionally go ahead and seek out to learn more for yourself in Excel. And definitely there is a lot to learn. And personally, even for myself, I always learn something new every time. Every time there's always something new. So you can, as long as you're open to the idea that there is always something that you can learn, some how to make your life so much easier, then it is going to be applicable. I could have shown a lot more in terms of downloading Max from Moodle, but because of those are sensitive data, I won't be able to review on that. But the staffs are always welcome to ask questions and send emails when they require specific things, especially when it comes to drawing of max, allocating of max, importing of max to the spreadsheet. And yes, and then for the VLOOKUP, I still can't do the VLOOKUP because it requires me to have two set of data, and the only information that I have on that is quite sensitive information. So, but I can provide a link on VLOOKUPs when you send an email, links on VLOOKUPs that have general scenarios that you can use for your own application. VLOOKUPs, HLOOKUPs, they're all applicable. And the only thing difficult is just understanding the function argument. Like I said, every function in Excel is the same. As long as you understand exactly what the argument requires from you and what to input, then you're going to be fine. There is nothing hidden about it. There's nothing special about it. And that is just that from my side. I don't know if there's going to, because this is our last session in Excel. Moderator, is there still more sections after this for PowerPoint or Word, right?
Yes, we have a PowerPoint session tomorrow at 9 to 11.
Okay.
Yes, so if maybe they would like to join us, please do register for that session to join us tomorrow for MS PowerPoint tomorrow at 9 o'clock.
Awesome. And then that is just that. Please don't forget to fill in the feedbacks because that is the most crucial thing. At the end of the day, this session was created for your own benefit, not our benefit, for your own benefit. So if you feel like there's a way you really want us to improve in terms of the service delivery, in terms of the presentations, or actually you want us to increase the session times and all that, feel free to go ahead and comment. And like I said in previous section, if you have more questions or you want me to explain in details specific things, you are more than welcome to send an email and I'll be pointing you to the right direction.
All right, I think if we do not have any other questions, I would just like to say on behalf of the RCD unit, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us today, more especially our facilitator who took their time preparing for this session. We are truly honored and we look forward to working with you again in the future. And should I receive any requests from participants, questions and stuff, I'll be able to forward you that. Please do expect that from me.
Okay, not a problem.
Thank you so much. I don't know, do you want us to maybe wait a bit for more questions before we can close off the session?
I mean, we still have time. So people that don't have any questions are more than welcome to leave the session. But I will hang around for anyone that changes their mind and because I still have actually time before 11 o'clock.
All right, thank you so much. Please enjoy the rest of the day. Goodbye from my side.
Hello, sir?
Yes, I'm listening.
Hello, sorry, sir. Are you still gonna share that email of yours, if you don't mind, sir?
It's already in the charts. I sent it to the charts. Just click on the charts icon, and then you're going to find the charts, the text on the charts.